ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Refined Savage Podcast. Sponsors this week include Midwest Best Grooming Company. New sponsor to the show. You're going to be hearing about Midwest Best on this podcast with Fred Lozano. Fred is one of the owners, along with Kristen McCaslin, who is an old high school pal of mine, and they make some of the best grooming products around. Beard balms, lip balms, skin balms, oils, anything you need to keep that beard nice and clean and smelling good. And they don't just have products for men. They've got women's products too, so check them out. All natural balms and oils for everyone. These are friends of the show, local people here in Lorain, Ohio, and they are killing the game. I have used their beard care products. They are really, really good. My favorite is the Hemingway brand beard balm. That's just my personal favorite, but they've got tons of other ones. One of my favorites is called Morningwood. You got to check that one out. Really good people, really good products. Give them a holler. Viking Coffee Company. Evan Armstrong at Viking Coffee. He is the master brewer. He is the brains behind our Old Man Strength coffee. A lot of you guys have tried that before. Check out Old Man Strength Coffee and check out his other brews while you're there. Get a couple bags. You're buying coffee at the store. It's garbage. Starbucks coffee is horrible. Dunkin' Donuts coffee isn't any better. Get some Viking coffee. Get some Old Man Strength coffee. Check him out. Use the code VIKINGCOFFEE10 at checkout for 10% off. Let's talk about strength. Let's talk about knee sleeves and elbow sleeves. Cerberus Strength. Ken's a great guy. He's been sponsoring the show now for the last few episodes. I can't tell you enough good things about Cerberus Strength. Their knee sleeves, elbow sleeves are fantastic. I know you guys are hurting. You guys need a little extra support. Check them out. They've got everything you could possibly need to make yourself stronger in and outside of the gym. I would really like to see this stuff start taking off at Highland Games. I think especially their sleeves are perfect for what we do out there on the field. Give them a holler. Cerberus-strength.us. Cerberus-strength.us. And use the code REFINESAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. Warrior CBD. Warrior CBD is a company that has been tested by jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA fighters. Their CBD oil is the best I've ever used. That is a promise. I use it every night. Little under your tongue before you go to bed, and man, you sleep like a rock. You can also use their muscle rubs, which are fantastic. They come in creams. They come in roll-ons. They have CBD oil for your dogs. Check them out. CBD oil is the wave of the future. Check them out at warriorcbdofficial.com and use the code WARRIOR20OFF at checkout, and you'll get 20% off your first order. Some of the great people you meet in the strength game, and Chad Clark is one of my favorite humans on the planet. He got us hooked up with his employers at Serious Steel. Serious Steel, you can outfit anything you need at Serious Steel, whether it's a home gym or a commercial gym, or if you just need things like hip bands and sleeves and wraps, and they've got a whole line of spud straps on there. They are the place to go if you need to buy gym equipment or strength equipment. Check them out, SeriousSteel.com. Big shout out to those guys. I love them. I bought a couple products already and I could not be happier. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off of your order. So we mentioned them earlier when we did the ad for Midwest Best Grooming Company. Today on the show, one of my new favorite guests, Fred Lozano. Fred is an old school guy from here in Ohio. He is one of the owners of Midwest Best Grooming. He is also a craft brewer, a craft beer brewer, and has his own brewery here in Lorain, Ohio. Original OG, really good dude. This podcast was fantastic, and it went on forever, and we hit all the bases, told some crazy stories, and it was really, really interesting podcast. Really interesting guy. I can't wait to have him on the show again. So check out today's episode with Fred Lozano, a.k.a. Fred the Mailman. Fred, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Morning.
What's going on? You said you were out doing the whole birthday thing last night?
Yeah, I had one of our bartenders' birthday last night, so we stopped in and at St. Lad's, and I didn't drink anything, but man, socializing, that's
I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that at all. You seem to be a little bit more of a social person.
In phases. It's one of those I've been a mailman for so long that I like little 30-second interactions and hey, how you doing? Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And anything longer than that, and I start to struggle.
Yeah. I can't do like big rooms of people. I had a kid yesterday come in here, and he's been working with us for about 2 years now. He's going on to the Air Force Academy, and he's like, hey, you coming to my graduation party? And I don't lie to these people. I go, no, I can't do those things. I can't sit there and, it's just awkward. I feel weird, and I'm just not good in social situations at all.
It's one of those situations where I tell people as you get older, the one of the skills you need to acquire is giving an honest yes or an honest no. Yeah. So a lot of times I give you an honest no.
Yeah.
Because it's the same way. I'll socialize to a point. Like yesterday, there were so many people there that I hadn't seen in forever that I thought, okay, let me, instead of going to 5 different people's functions, I'll go to this one function, get everybody out of the way, and then I can not show up to whatever the next thing is.
You're kind of stacking social events. I did that one. I'm okay now. I've seen all those people. That's it's definitely something that I've picked up as I've gotten older. Is just like I've had people from here all the time, and most of the people from here know by now that I'm not going to come to your parties. It's not because I don't like you. It's just because it's weird and awkward. And they'll ask me, every once in a while, someone will still ask me, hey, you going to go to such and such party? And I just go, no, that sounds horrible. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I'm one of those, I appreciate the invite, like the fact that you still think about me, but I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm just not.
Yeah.
I was one of those people growing up that I fit in everywhere, but I didn't belong anywhere.
Right.
So when I have to go to like a clique-specific thing, I'm like, I don't know if this is my gig or not.
I don't know if I'm in this tribe or not.
Right.
But it's got to be a little bit difficult for you. Tell them about the brewery, first of all.
The brewery, the idea for the brewery started in 2015. Basically, I was out drinking with my dad. I was at the VFW in Amherst and running my mouth, complaining about having to drive to Cleveland for craft beer.
Yeah.
And my dad's super old school, man. Old Marine. 2 tours of Nam in the Marine Corps, just upfront as can be, So I'm complaining about having to drive to Cleveland for craft beer, and he says, "Why don't you just shut up and open your own brewery?" I kind of look around like, damn, this dude really just threw the gauntlet.
Yeah, right.
I was like, fine, I'm gonna open a brewery, and he goes, "If you open a brewery, I'll pay your first year's rent."
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, you better get your wallet ready. I'm opening a brewery. So I woke up the next day. I'm like, man, I talked a lot of shit last night. I got to open a brewery. And didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So
did you know anything about crafting beer?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. I had what I knew of craft beer. I have a friend whose family works at the IX Center. Mm-hmm. And for 2 years, they called me to help. There used to be a big craft beer thing at the IX Center.
Right.
So the one year she calls me, says, hey, we're short on volunteers. You want to come pour craft beer? I'm like, yeah, beer, whatever. Yeah. I'll go pour. And I show up, and they said, what do you know about Belgian beer? And I said, nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah, who knows anything about Belgian beer?
Right. And they said, well, we need somebody in the Belgian section. Nobody's in the Belgian section. So go pour beer in the Belgian section. And I said you get to try it so that when people ask you for a taste profile, you can give them an honest. I'm like, all right. So I'm trying all these different Belgian beers. I'm like, holy shit, this is really good. So you get a couple breaks during the day, and they tell you, go check out everybody else's beer, so I'm kind of cruising around trying that out. And I got into it. I got into it a little bit the first year. The second year that I went was when I was really like, man, I've been drinking crap beer my whole life. What's going on? Yeah. So I kind of got into that, and then I was dating this woman for a minute who, her and her ex-husband used to own a couple different bars around Cleveland, and she would only take me to small, the kind of places that serve craft beer. Mm-hmm. We never went to any corporate anything.
Right.
So I got more into craft beer there. There's a place, Touch Supper Club. It's over off of Detroit near West 25th Street, kind of by Great Lakes Brewery, not too far from there. And their craft beer selection was off the charts, and it's a small little spot. So I got big into the Belgians there. So I just started going. I started going to all these little places, and Platform Beer opened at the time, and I went and checked it out. And the thing that I got from going to most of these craft beer places was they were in crappy neighborhoods. Sure. Yeah. Everybody thinks, oh man, it's they're selling a $6 beer. It must be in this fancy Westlake or whatever. No, they were in the most rotten little neighborhoods ever. And from that, I'm like, I was convinced I could do something like that here in the area. So when I woke up that next day, I didn't know my business partner. I knew his ex-wife. Mm-hmm. They were married at the time, and he was brewing for Mount Carmel down to Cincinnati. So I called her. I said, hey, can I talk to your husband? And she says, yeah. We had a 3-hour conversation.
Wow.
He grew up in Youngstown. Okay. So his dad was an old steel mill worker. My dad was an old steel mill worker.
Tough town. Youngstown's a tough town.
Yeah. So after 3-hour conversation, I had a business partner.
Yeah.
So he would travel. I think they were living in Parma at the time. He would come into Lorain. I'd show him around town. I'd, kind of tell him the history of Lorain. And he's like, man, you really like this town, don't you? And I said, yeah, it's not great. It's like that old T-shirt you love. Yeah. Everybody else is kind of like, I don't think I like that shirt. And you're like, it's the only one that fits me.
Perfect.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, Lorraine is. So I grew up in Amherst, and when we opened up the gym, at first we were in downtown Amherst, and we needed a bigger spot, and this place opened up in Lorraine, and you grew up in Amherst your whole life, and you're thinking, man, I don't know, people are going to come to Lorraine to. But we opened up here, and I fell in love with the town right off the bat, and it wasn't like I wasn't familiar with it, but I wasn't looking at it. So I lived in Amherst, and Lorraine was just that city, down the street where, I worked at the DH2, so all I saw was crime and shitty neighborhoods and yada, yada, yada. But once you got in and got the vibe of what Lorraine is, it's a completely different animal than the way people see it sometimes. And it's a tough town, and it's got its problems, but man, it just seems like it's really bouncing back. And I think the reason it's bouncing back is because places like yours and Speak of the Devil and just like our place is opening up. You got the jiu-jitsu school out on Middle Ridge Road, and you've got all these little businesses popping up, and it's like, fuck it, we don't care that people have this stigma about Lorraine. We're just going to make this town better. And it's really fun to watch.
When I went to open a brewery, my mindset was there's all these little places in Lorraine that are specifically Lorraine that have been around forever. And if I can get the brewery to kind of match that feel, then we'll be fine. I always tell people Yala's Pizza, Giovanni's Pizza, all these little places that when you say those names, it elicits a feeling.
100%.
I said, how many Domino's or Papa John's or Marco's or whatever have come into Lorraine? They failed. They closed up shop. Yep. And we've got these grimy little pizza places that are just murdering it.
Yala's Pizza. Right. Slightly burnt cheese on top of it. Oh, so good.
And and there's still a fight about the pizza in town. You know, you can tell South Side kid, West Side kid, East Side kid by what pizza they love.
Yep.
And I said, you know, I wanna be that. You know, 50 years down the road when the brewery closes or it's not mine anymore or whatever, I want people to talk about the brewery the way they talk about Giovanni's and Yalla's and, you know, Bob's Donuts. I say Bob's Donuts. Everybody's like, oh, my God, I wish Bob's Donuts. I need some JoJo's from Bob's Donuts, you know? Right. And that was the feel. I didn't, you know, not that I mind the bigger breweries. They have their place, but this is still a mom-and-pop town.
Yeah.
You know, sure. and I wanted to open a mom-and-pop brewery. So we originally we were supposed to be on Broadway, right next to the Palace Theater at the old Eagles building. Right. And that kind of fell through. There's a lot going on Broadway that I don't. At the time, I don't think they were ready for us at the time, and I don't think we were ready for Broadway at the time. So when that fell through, a lady that we know happened to know the people who owned the building we're in now. And she says, hey, you guys might want to go check this building out. We checked it out. Had everything we needed. It was on a busy intersection. It had an overhead door in the back, and the rent was right. You know,
That's key.
We went over there, and it's been kind of a blessing in disguise. We've been able to grow at our own pace over there, and not have to worry about, oh man, you're on Broadway, so you need to be a specific kind of successful.
Yeah.
You know, we've been quietly successful. We're going into our second year of operation there, because we got our license to brew in June 2 years ago.
I remember we're going out to your place right when you got the license.
Right, and it's been, it's been fun, and what's been fun about it is it's the same. It's that Lorraine thing where we've just kind of let the people dictate what the brewery is.
Yeah.
You know, they come in, they're not sure. You know, we've got weird art all over. We've got the wood carvings. We've got all this stuff, but we tell them everything in here has a story.
Sure.
You know, the bar top is the floor tiles from the church Chris went to growing up. You know, we've got church pews in there. We've got just all these things people have donated. People call us to say, hey, my grandma passed away. Do you guys want her table? And I'm like, well, do you want your grandma's table in our brewery?
Yeah, right.
Like, then if you want your grandma's table in my brewery, bring it.
Yeah, I would like to do, especially speaking of tables, you know, I'm trying to get rid of this desk, but I keep looking at tables and I'm like, I want something with a history. I want something where some local bike club, some local bike gang had their meetings around, or you know, some church group had their meetings. Just something with some history to it before I start. But I feel the same way. You start putting stuff in your space that has history to it, and you get a vibe off it when you're using it. You know?
Right, because you've traveled a ton.
Yeah,
I've just started traveling outside of the country. I've done a lot of traveling in the country. I've been up and down the entire East Coast. Yeah. But 2 years ago, I went to the Browns game that was in London.
Oh, yeah.
So I spent 4 days in London, and then I did 2 days in Paris. And you're walking around, and you're in these buildings that you have no concept of the time.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, well, in 1600, I can't even think what the hell 1600 is. And I'm standing here in this building that was around back then. And we've just gotten so much into this throwaway culture in the United States that it's like, okay, I understand probably 90% of the stuff we can toss, but the 10% that we shouldn't, we should just be more aware of that type of stuff. And, we take so much for, we'll drive by architecture here and not even take a second to stop and go, oh man, this is really cool. It's 100 years old. And it's, I've been working in Berea delivering mail for, next week it'll be 21 years I've been in Berea, and they do a really good job of the century homes. If they've got a century home in Berea, the city and the state and whoever do a really good job of making sure that home stays in good shape and the people are taking care of it, because they know, listen, we're probably going to demolish the other 90% of the city, but let's keep this 10%. Let's
keep the history and craftsmanship and houses that weren't cookie cutters. And I found an arrowhead and it was in Vermilion, and it was about 8 or 9 months ago I found it, and I picked this thing up and looking at it, and I'm like, man, I think that's an arrowhead. It looks like someone shaped it and crafted it. And I went to the Cleveland Museum of Natural History to talk to Dr. Brian Redmond out there about some of the Native American civilizations that were around here, and he's showing me arrowheads. And I told him, I said, I found this arrowhead a while back, and he said, well, come here. And we went in the back, and he's got this whole display of arrowheads out. And he's like, tell me which one it looks like. And I pointed to the one. He goes, yeah, that one's almost 2,000 years old. And I sit there, and I'll sit there and just pick that thing off the shelf and look at it and think, some motherfucker 2,000 years ago was crafting this thing to kill whatever he was going to kill, and now it's ended up on my shelf at home. It just, that history of these little things. I've got another stone that a kid brought back from Thermopylae in Greece. So, what was that stone? If that stone could talk, what could it tell you about, Thermopylae in 480 BC, just crazy stuff like that. And, I'll just keep a rock that's like that forever.
Right. We, like I said, there's so much of the history. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day that I think that movies have changed our mindset, in that we consider so much of history mythology now.
Right.
Like we think of native people or whatever, not in the sense that they were here before us, but almost like they were a story that somebody told.
Yeah.
I think we lost the reality of, oh no, man, they were really here. They're standing where you were standing. I'm going down to Puerto Rico in August, and I had a friend who went to Puerto Rico for the first time. He's not from Puerto Rico, and his wife's from Puerto Rico, and they went around all the ancient Taino ruins down there. And I've been to Puerto Rico 5 or 6 times. My family's from there. I've never gone to see any of that.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that.
So I start reading up on the history of the people, and it's one of those things that when the Spaniards came over there, they just whitewashed that whole history.
Yeah, right.
They said if you have Taino blood in you, it's maternal. They killed all the men, because the men just wouldn't. They tried to enslave them. Yeah. They tried to do all this, and the men were like, "Nah, we're not having any of that. So you're just going to have to kill us," and they did. But every time they thought, "Oh, okay, we've kind of quelled the natives here," they'd rise up, there'd be a war, and the Spaniards finally were like, screw it, just kill them.
Too much.
There was one of my favorite stories. There was a guy, one of the tribal leaders, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but I think it's Aguebana II. They call him El Bravo. But he, a lot of the natives thought that the Spaniards were gods.
Right.
Oh man, we have
Second coming at Quetzalcoatl.
Right.
White men with beards.
So Aguebana was like, no man, I'm pretty sure these are just men. Like no, don't be disrespectful. They're gods. They came across the seas and this and that. And he goes, I'm going to show you guys they're not gods. So there were some Spaniards bathing in the river, and he just went up and grabbed one by the back of the neck and he drowned him. And when the guy died, he's like, see?
Told you.
I told you, yeah. I'm like, how crazy is that's what it took?
Right.
Like, I'm just going to go kill somebody,
Yeah. I'm reading America Before by Graham Hancock right now. People on this podcast are fucking sick of me talking about Graham Hancock, but it talks a lot about that stuff and a lot about what was here before the Spanish came over. But that was one of the things, is that they had this prophecy that the god Quetzalcoatl will return, and he was fair-skinned with beards, and he would come across the sea, and when they showed up, and they showed up with horses, which they hadn't seen before too, and they thought this was some kind of weird, mixed being that had this four-legged body, and then the man's body on top. I mean, can you imagine that if you've never seen a horse before?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden these people show up, and they jump off boats, and they're jumping on these horses, and you can see where they thought that, what the fuck is this? craziness.
Yeah, we have you been on to Puerto Rico before?
So I got yelled at. So we went to I tell people we went to Puerto Rico, but if you tell someone who has family in Puerto Rico that you went to Puerto Rico and all I went to was San Juan, they get all pissed off at you. You didn't see Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
San Juan for us is a lot like Nassau. There's a lot of shopping.
Right.
Not our cup of tea, but we were on a cruise. That's where you got dropped off.
And for me, I'm one of those people that counts, because if somebody came to the United States and they went to New York, I wouldn't bust their chops about not coming to Cleveland or not going to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
You made it to where most people make it, so it counts. But that El Morro, the fort right there in San Juan. I go there and you check out the history and you look at the guard towers there. You can barely fit in a guard tower, and you're like, how in the hell did some guy with a rifle sit in this guard tower?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. Again, the concept how tiny the people were back then, because they have the the living quarters.
Yeah.
And I've got to bend down. I'm only 6'1", but
Yeah.
I've got to bend down to get through every doorway coming through here. Like, what the hell did that look like?
It's such a beautiful city, though, and we found this little bar restaurant area on this back alley with the cobblestone streets, and we just sat out there and had a few cocktails while everyone's going down and buying their Gucci shit. We're off that beaten path, but that's how we ended up enjoying Puerto Rico is just finding a spot out of the way that was beautiful that you could just hang out. And
did you see the street where they used the ballast stones to cobble the street?
Yes, yeah.
That was because it's blue. It's like this crazy blue color. And that was, again, same thing. I couldn't imagine, you're getting off of the ship. Well, we're going to take these ballast stones. We're going to make the road.
Right.
And it's been there for forever.
Probably be there long after we're gone.
Right.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in the Caribbean bouncing around from island to island. And, my favorites are the Turks and Caicos and the Caymans and St. Thomas. But you have to, depending on how you get there, you kind of have to make your own journey. You can't, if you're on a cruise ship, you're going to get off the boat, you're going to get attacked. You're just going to get attacked, but you got to make it through. It's just like breaking a line. You got to get through that line of people who want to sell you shit and get you in taxis and then just go out and explore. And I remember being in Grand Cayman, and we get off the boat and we ask a lady, how far is it to this beach? And she said, 7 miles, you have to take a taxi. And we're like, man, fuck this. I think we can just walk down this beach and eventually get to a nice beach. And my wife and I just start walking. Everybody else is getting in taxi cabs and getting on tours and doing excursions. We just start walking down the coast, and we walked about a mile, and we're just about to turn back. We're like, man, I don't think it. And this guy who must live there or rents the house or whatever comes out and he goes, no, don't stop. Don't turn around. He goes, you got another 150 yards. Just keep going. I promise you. We were like, okay. Another 150 yards down there. And it was like the best beach you'd ever see. And people are just waist deep in the water, drinking their cocktails, and all these fish are floating. You can see right to the bottom. And, there are people native of the islands. And there's people who I probably did the same thing we did, just found their way down there. And it was amazing, and it was. We spent the whole day there just hanging out. Nobody charged us for a lounge chair or anything. The bar is a stone's throw from the water. At the end of the day, we're like, oh shit, it's an hour to get back to the ship, and we're screwed here. This water taxi pulls up. Hey, $5 to take you back to the ship. Get in the boat. Let's go.
Nice.
And it just. But I always recommend that to people is, don't travel that same beaten path. Just find your own way, and you'll have a lot better time down there.
Yeah, we went, a buddy and I went down to, we were down in Mexico. We go to, was it Cozumel?
Cozumel's nice.
Yeah, I don't remember where the heck we were down in Mexico. But same thing. We, hey, let's just start walking, find a little spot, whatever. And the one night we got dressed, we're getting ready to go out, and we're walking off the resort, and these two guys from New York, they were from Long Island. They're like, you guys are leaving the resort?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah. And like, can we come with you?
like your bodyguards?
Yeah, man. I'm like, yeah, man. You know, we're just gonna go. We're gonna find a place to eat, whatever. And the one guy goes, well, if we can hang out with you guys, man, we'll pay for your meals.
Wow.
Great.
All right.
Fantastic. So we go down, we find some little rinky-dink, place to eat, and I made sure I ordered twice what I usually order because this guy's paying for it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be a sissy, right? But I've never been to that mindset where I'm, afraid to go somewhere or afraid to, I understand that. There's there's probably dicey areas, dangerous areas, whatever, but there's dicey, dangerous areas in Cleveland.
Yep.
So why in the hell would I go on vacation and then be afraid to leave the resort? It just didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, I benefited from these guys.
We were watching one of these travel shows, and they were in, I can't remember if it was Mexico City, but it was somewhere around there. And they were talking about the murder rate. And it was Bourdain. And Bourdain was like, yeah, there's, just like you said, there's sketchy places, and you have to be careful, and you can't be dumb. And we started looking up murder rates in Mexico City and what was the other one? Bogota, I think, which is always, like the scary one, And then we started comparing it to like Detroit and Chicago. Chicago, we just spent a beautiful weekend in Chicago. No one tried to stab me,
Yeah.
And the murder rates per people were way less in Bogota and Mexico City, But it's all this bullshit that they try to sell you. And, my brother-in-law goes to Mexico all the time, never leaves the resort. Now, I've never been in a resort in Mexico, but I think that's the way most people do it, is they go down there and they just stay in their resort and everything's provided, but it's America. It's a little piece of America in that country. You're not really seeing the country. We went out, we were in Cozumel, got on this was 2 years ago. New Orleans, cruise from New Orleans to Cozumel, and then there was one other spot in Mexico, but I wanted to see Tulum, the Mayan ruins. And we got there, boom, got on a bus, and it took us, an hour and a half out, and you actually got to see Mexico. And I had an entire revelation about, on this trip there and back, of immigration and what, the problems with immigration. And I get that people want safety and security and everything, but you can't look at these people living in, these brick houses with no windows and, and tell them, you can't come to this country. You stay in your own country. You just figure out a way to do it down there. You're not going to do that. If you're living in this country and you see just, hey, right across the border, I can get a great job and support my family and all this stuff. How are you going to tell these people no, they can't come up here? And they're not. The argument is always, well, the terrorists could come through the border. And yeah, they could come through the Canadian border too, because I see a lot more Arab folks when I'm in Canada than I do in Mexico. But that changed my whole outlook. And here I am, just this hour and a half trip. It changes my whole outlook on the immigration problem in the U.S. And then you get out to these ruins, and we got to walk around Tulum, and it was this incredible vibe I'm getting from these ruins that are thousands of years old. And you're hanging out, and you get away from the tour guides, and you're going up to the temple and seeing that people lived and worked here and worshipped and killed and were at war with other tribes, and just. You go down to the beach behind the temple, and these people just hung out and looked at the beauty of the ocean coming in. And I ended up getting the tattoo of the descending god on my arm after I left, and which was their patron god there. But afterwards, you get done and you go out, and these little abuelas are in their little shacks, but they're making you the best Mexican food you've ever had in your life. And I shouldn't even say Mexican, because they consider themselves Mayan still, they'll tell you flat out, the Mayans didn't disappear, we're Mayan,
Yeah.
And, you're just hanging out and you're having a margarita and eating this food, and the little stray dogs are coming up to you and you're chucking meat over to them, and it was just an amazing trip. And you got to get out. You got to go out and risk a little bit to see some of this stuff.
When one of my best friends, he's an ICE agent now. He started out as a Border Patrol agent. He was in Laredo, Texas.
Is this Hars's brother?
Hars's brother, yeah. Right. That's basically my best friend, my brother. So he
told me to ask you all kinds of fucking crazy, inappropriate stories on this podcast. I was like, I'm not bringing any of that shit up.
Listen, next time you talk to Harsa, ask him about the time I threw him up in the air because he called me a Mexican. He didn't tell you that story.
No.
I used to beat him up when he was little. I'll still beat him up now. Yeah, he trust me. Only dude I ever know that used to meet me at the gym after eating 12 chicken wings, and he's burping the whole time we're working. I'm like, dude, what are you burping? He's like, I just ate like 4 dozen chicken wings before we started working out. But I digress.
Yes.
But you go down, you hang out in Laredo, and the population in Laredo at the time when Barry was an agent was 96% Mexican, 2% white, 2% other, and you realize that people up here don't have a concept of that. They're talking about things on the border, talking about problems on the border, and I'm like, you do understand that the border, the line switched, but the people didn't.
Right.
Like that's still Mexican people.
All of a sudden, you're on the wrong side of a stripe.
Right. So you go down there and you have to have some respect for the fact that these people never moved. They've been here for forever. They've been here since before, the cowboys or anything that we had.
They're Mayan. They're Aztec.
Right. And it's just, but again, there's so many people that don't travel. They don't get outside of their own little bubble of knowledge, and they read something on the internet, and suddenly I'm an expert.
Yeah.
It's like, no, have you seen what you're talking about? Have you ever set foot in anywhere that you're giving me your expertise on?
Right, yeah.
No.
And that's the thing is, the people listen to the news or watch the internet, and you just got to go and experience it for yourself and find these places and have experiences. And whether it's the Caribbean, we went to Iceland a couple years ago, and we just decided we were going to go out and find these stones, and there's no tour guides. My buddy got some crude directions. Oh, go this place for 2 hours, take a right on this dirt road. We ended up finding it. We got lost a couple times, but I think that's all part of the trip, And
I just did. Was it last September? I did a week in Iceland.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, we our first night we stayed in Reykjavik. We did an Airbnb in Reykjavik, and then we drove the whole island. We, every couple of hours, I think maybe every 4 hours, we rent an Airbnb and stay. So
yeah.
We did the entire island, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably, there was 4 of us, and it was probably the best trip I've been on till this point. Ended up making friends with some guys who have a brewery near Vik, which is where the Black Sand Beach is.
Yes, yeah.
And
that's as far as we got, was up there.
Okay, yeah. When you go to the Black Sand Beach, on the other side of that mountain is the brewery.
Okay.
So you have to go back up the road and around the mountain to one side. It's called Smidgen Brew House.
Okay.
Phenomenal. It's like $18 for a burger, but everywhere is $18 for a burger out there.
Iceland's super expensive.
But
I'm looking that up while you're talking.
The view was amazing. The beer was really good. Nicest guys in the world, and they told us, hey, come up and brew with us next time you come to Iceland, because they want to be able to say, hey, we brewed with an American brewery.
Right.
And I for sure want to be able to say, man, I went up and brewed with an Icelandic brewer. But we ended up doing a beer tour in Reykjavik. And so they told us, about, they had prohibition until 85.
No, I didn't
in
know
Iceland.
that.
Yeah, they very limited as to what you could get for alcohol in Iceland
It's
up until
still
1985.
a little limited as far as what you can get, because I had a hard time getting I'm a rum guy, and here you go right here.
Yeah.
Smidgen Brewhouse. Woo!
Yeah, that spot it's a great spot. So Sven's the guy who he's one of the brewmasters, and I got to be friends with that guy. Excellent spot.
Yeah. Well, for all my friends who go to Iceland all the time, check that out. Smidgen Brewhouse.
Yeah, tell Sven we said what's up.
Route 15, Vik 870, Iceland. So check them out.
Yeah, there was most of the breweries in Iceland are partnered with either Coke or Pepsi. Oh. You know, because they had prohibition there. So there wasn't any Budweiser or anybody in Iceland, but you had all your soda companies were there. So when they started to take the restrictions away, soda companies partnered with these little breweries, said, hey, basically, we'll bring your product, we'll bring you your barley and your malts and your yeast and whatever with our product, but we want to be partner. We want a percentage, you know. So we'll invest in your little brewery, but now you're an affiliate of Coke or Pepsi or whoever. That was one of the major things, because now that I travel, I like to see what don't I see. Mm-hmm. You know, what am I used to where I'm at that I don't see here? So we go to Iceland. I don't see Burger King. I don't see McDonald's. No. You know, we saw one Taco Bell on the way to the airport. They had Subway there, and I know they had Domino's Pizza because we met a girl who worked for them.
Right.
But I didn't see any of the regular fast food stuff there. And so that was really interesting to me. You know, the people in Iceland were in relatively good shape. I go, when I travel someplace, you know, I get off the airplane and, okay, how many morbidly obese people do I see within the first hour of me being somewhere? And that'll usually give you a general of what the population is going to be. And the people were, you know, they were in decent shape. They trick you on the airplane. We flew, I don't know who you flew. We flew.
Wow.
Yeah, we flew WOW too. Yeah. So they have all the knockout flight attendants.
Oh, yeah. In purple uniforms.
Right.
And
supermodels.
Yeah.
And then you get off and you get off the plane and everybody's average as hell. And you're like, oh, man, you guys tricked me. I thought this was...
This is what I told Isaac, my buddy Isaac, when he asked me about it. I said, you know, I expected everyone there to look like Thorbjornsen and all the women to look like Katrin David's daughter and just be just super jacked and blonde and gorgeous. But you're right, there was not a lot of obese people there.
Right.
And I think that whole country, it's so weird that they've got something like 8 World's Strongest Man titles and like 4 or 5 CrossFit Games titles on this little tiny island that has a population that's like Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I think a lot of it is like the reason why you get these Kenyan runners, you know, and these little spots around the globe where it's like, when you went to Kenya, you didn't have any other choice but to run your balls off through the mountains, and that's just the way you lived, and you're in this higher altitude, and your lungs develop differently. And the people in Iceland were just such fucking savages that, hey, we're going to go up to this island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that is freezing cold, and there's nothing there. We're just going to stand on these lava rocks and make it happen. And the descendants from that are just these superhumans who are, it's not almost like they're not even the same species we are.
If you get up there again, probably like 25 minutes from the airport is the Viking Museum.
Yeah.
The little saga museum. It's tiny. It's a really small. If you don't go in, you're not missing much. But when you do go in, there's enough of the history there. You know, I thought that was cool about Iceland. Anytime they talk about the saga, it's always you know, like, okay, well, let's pay attention to this because it's going to be something historically meaningful. But that was it was kind of cool because I went with Tim, you know, who's, you know, my partner in the beer bump company. And Tim's big into the Viking lore. He's got the tattoos and all this stuff. And we always joke that I'm the Puerto Rican guy, but I've got the Viking beard.
Right,
and Tim's, he's got Norse blood in him, and he's like trying to grow his beard out.
Baby faced, yeah.
So we're walking around, and you see all this Viking history, and I'm like, yeah, there was probably some Viking back in the day that went down to Puerto Rico and was like, man, I kind of like the big booties down here. I'm gonna stay right here, yeah. Right. They've got coconuts and stuff, but so and that's the thing. The more you travel, you're like, you know what? I don't know at what point in time we decided that we weren't the same people, but man, God, we're the same people.
Yeah, that it's these. You get these tribal lines drawn, and it's really it's frustrating because I grew up in a little redneck town. Amherst was a little redneck town, and it still shocks me to the point where I'll go out for dinner or something. I'll be sitting in a bar, and some guy I grew up with will come up to me, and they'll start, maybe they've had too much to drink or something, but they'll drop an N-bomb in front of me. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Dude, you work a minimum wage job and you're barely feeding your family, and because you're got white skin, you get to talk shit about people. It's like, what? It's almost shocking, and you'll still get that every once in a while, but I think you get it a lot less these days. And I think it's literally because of things like this, like podcasts where you hear people talk and you're not listening to the same old guys you grew up with. And I think all that shit's fading out. And, as many problems as we have, I think those moments where someone would drop an N-bomb in front of you are becoming so rare. Whereas, maybe 20, 30 years ago, it was a lot more common.
Right.
And I think people just are starting to respect each other more. I just don't think you hear it reported on as much.
Right. Yeah, we I grew up in Lorain, and Lorain was just diverse as all hell. And my dad always told me, he's like, listen, I know the Hungarian guy came from nothing, the Croatian guy came from nothing, all these guys came from nothing. They're busting their ass the same as I am at the steel mill. Yeah. So you respect that. He said, because the last thing I want is for them to come to me when I'm at work and tell me that my son's the problem.
Yeah.
He said, so end of the day, you just make sure you're not the problem. I don't care. And so in Lorraine, the divisions weren't, it wasn't racial. It was, well, you're from the east side. I'm from the south side. Yeah. He's from the west side. It didn't matter what color you were. If you were from the other side of town, then we were, I was going to have to fill you out first.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going to college. Went to Baldwin Wallace for a couple years.
I love BW. I wanted to go there so bad.
It was, I like some of the people that I met there, but it was the clickiest place I've ever been in my entire life. And it just wasn't, because my graduating class at sophomore was only 188 people. So you were a cross-click person, So
sure.
I was in a band, but I was also on the football team,
yeah.
And I was in the National Honor Society, and I was part of the Key Club or what. So we weren't big enough to just have jocks and just have nerds and just that you were. So I get to college, and they had all these little cliques of people. And, so I'd hang out with one group of people, and then, I'd go and hang out with the next group of people, and they're like, well, I thought you were hanging out with them. I was like, yeah, I hung out with them. Now I'm hanging out with you guys. So what's right? I had an incident where I was sitting down at a table in the lunchroom, and this guy comes and he tells me, man, you can't sit here. I'm like, what do you mean I can't sit here? He goes, this is a soccer player's table. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, man, you're going to have to get up. This is a soccer player's table. And I was like, listen, I don't know what episode of Saved by the Bell you think we're on right now, but I'm eating my lunch, Like, I don't know where you were raised that you think you can bother somebody while they're eating lunch, but I'm eating my lunch. Yeah. And he's like, no, man, you're gonna have to get up. And I said, dude, the day that I ever let myself get bullied by a soccer player,
right.
I said, I'm just gonna cut my balls off. I said, it's not going to happen. So he goes and he gets two buddies, And they come over and they're like, listen, and I'm halfway through my lunch by this time already. And so one of the guys who was one of the RAs in my building, Brian Clark, he's a school teacher in Lorain.
I know that name, yeah.
He was the one of the hall directors, RAs in my building. Clark comes over, and he's kind of a big dude. He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Dude, these soccer nerds are trying to bully me. They told me I need to get up from the table." And he goes, "Gentlemen, Freddie's going to kick a fucking hole in your chest if you keep bothering while he's eating." He's like, "Maybe tomorrow he'll go sit at a different table, but
maybe not.
Stop bothering him." And they walked away. I'm like, listen, I've never been in a fight in my life. Ever. I've never backed down from a fight, but it's never come to blows. It's never come to blows. And part of it is my dad and my uncles beat up so many people back in the day that the last name just had a reputation. Right. So, but I'm like, who goes looking for a fight? But it was the one thing my dad always told me. He said, "Son, you get in a fight, you're not gonna like it.
No,
you're just not." And he said, and that's why I'm so good at. He says, I hate getting in a fight so much that I punish the guy for making me do it.
Yeah, right.
And he always joke. He said, "Son, only the loser complains about it being a dirty fight."
Yeah.
And so I was lucky I never had to do that. But at the same time, I'm like, who goes? Like, it's lunch. Why are you buying? It should be the happiest time of the day. We're eating, right?
We're getting to hang out and eat.
Why are you messing with me? But
people who get into fights like that have never been in fights, or they don't know how to fight, or they got something to prove. It's constant. I can't imagine going out to that. Sounds like the worst night ever. Going out to a bar with your friends and having to get into a fight with somebody.
Yeah.
Jesus
well, you remember
Christ.
the flats in the 90s was just punch. The worst thing that ever.
That's the name for it. Yeah.
The worst thing that ever happened to the flats was when they got rid of the mounted police out there.
Yeah.
Because they used to have, if guys got sideways on the east bank of the flats, the mounted police would have the horses kind of shuffle them off and whatever. As soon as they got rid of the mounted police, every group of 3 guys or more thought that they were, just
every bar had a group of gorillas bouncing for them and shit, and people ended up in the river. And
I bounced for a little bit, but here in Lorain, there was this little bar called Jam Times on Broadway. And it was older crowd, mostly African American, but everybody came well dressed, zero problems. The only problem I had, there was a lady who probably had 3 teeth in her mouth, and every night, "What's your name? You fine?" I'm like, "Ma'am, I'm working. I can't."
Right. You're working. That's since you don't have enough teeth for me.
Right.
I'm working.
But I bounced with a guy, Ed Carrion.
Yeah,
he was big into martial arts here. He's actually
Chris's brother. Chris Carrion was the guy who taught me a lot of ground fighting when I was at the sheriff's department.
Well, they call him Rainbow. They call Ed Carrion. They call him Rainbow. He got a brother Stevie.
There's got to be some relation. Carrion.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Martial arts.
But so Rainbow did. He was into jiu-jitsu. He was into taekwondo. I think he had 4 different black belts.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't let us bounce with him unless we took his self-defense classes.
Yeah.
So, our first, probably our first month worth of lessons was all, okay, you're screwed. Here's how you survive it. So we had to start on the ground, or we had to start with the guy having us from behind, and that type of stuff.
That's smart.
Because he said the worst time to be a bouncer is when the other guys you with are already screwed, and you're trying to decide, man, do I save myself or do I save my buddy? Or, he goes, if I know that you know how to save yourself, then I can handle my business, and then we can go from there. He's like, you make it twice as bad when you're like, crap, I've got to go, save this big gorilla who doesn't know what to do with himself.
That's great, though, that they made you do that. I was the head bouncer at Toucan Charlie's. Remember Toucan Charlie's back in the day? Fucking ladies' night on Thursday night, you know? Ooh, what bar has around here has a line out the door to get into that place?
That spot, that's a spot where I discovered I can't drink Long Island iced teas. I think I had 9 of them.
Everybody has one of those spots.
I had like 9 of them, and the first 5, nothing.
Yeah.
Like the 7th one, I start to get a little bit of a buzz. I get that 9th one. I woke up in the grass in front of Denny's over there on 58.
Yeah.
I'm like, where am I? My cousin comes outside. He's like, "Oh, you're awake." I'm like, "Dude, why would you leave me in the grass in front of Denny's?" He's like, "We had no choice, man. You just made a bad night of it."
That place was crazy. That was the first place I ever choked a guy out. He knocked over a waitress. He's getting into fights. He won't stop. I hooked him up from behind. And I squeezed, and he went right to sleep. And before that, it was all theory and practice, from working with Carry On. And he goes to sleep, and I'm like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? He's leaning over a pool table. So I remember in pro wrestling, when they would put the guy in the sleeper hold, they would just rub the back of his neck or slap the back of his neck to wake him back up. So I was just like, so I started rubbing the back of the neck, and he wakes up, and I told everybody, get him out of here, and I'm thinking, oh, God, thank God he woke up, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing,
Yeah, Hars's brother. So, have you ever met Barry?
I don't know.
He's only like 5'7". He's built like SpongeBob. He's completely square.
Right.
But he's a stocky dude. So he was a bouncer at Rascal House.
Yeah.
And so we'd go over there to watch him bounce, and it was funny because at the time he was probably 5'5", 5'6" at the time. And all these other bouncers are 6'3",
right, yeah.
Whatever, all these monsters. And so, guaranteed, at least once a week, there was one guy that was feeling his oats who, Barry's escorting him out, and he'd think, "Wow, this is the little bouncer," So I'm gonna mess with him, and it always ended badly. And I'm like, man, I wish we had camera phones back then, because some of the stuff was,
Yeah, because everything gets recorded now. You forget that stuff wasn't around whenever I was doing it, 94.
Yeah, we were. We used to go to Club 1148 all the time, West Bank of the Flats.
Yeah.
It was because there were less bars on that side of the river. There were just less fights.
Yeah.
I mean, there were still fights over there, but there were a lot less. And I just remember, there were always pro athletes in there, Indians players or Browns players or whatever, because they could come in, they could hang out anonymously. Even if people went up and asked for an autograph or whatever, there wasn't any record of it.
Yeah.
Now you get so many pro athletes now that they just won't go out because somebody's always got a camera phone in their face.
Yeah.
If they have a drink of whatever, oh man, look at so and so, he's out drinking tonight. Man, leave the guy alone. Let him. We used to go up to when it was Tiffany's Cabaret. We go up there. Mo Vaughn. If you wanted to meet Mo Vaughn, go to Tiffany's.
Yeah.
If the Red Sox were in town, promise you Mo Vaughn was at the strip club. Bobby Sura, when he played for the Cavs, that guy, he was terrible.
Yep.
But he was always up there, and the girls loved him.
They took me up there for my 21st birthday, and it was all the guys from Tukey and Charlie's, the owner and the other bouncers and the servers and everything. They took me up there, and we get there, and the owner knew the owner at Tiffany's, or the managers knew each other, and she was going to give us access to the VIP room upstairs. And we get there, and she's like, I'm sorry, I can't let you up there tonight. And he was like, why? What's going on? The fucking 4 horsemen, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Lex Luger, and Tony Blanchard, are all up there with the fucking girls. And she's like, and I don't know how many girls are coming down and when they're coming down, because they're monopolizing all of them up there. And I was like this huge, wrestling fan. I'm like, you gotta get us up there in the VIP room. And she wouldn't let us up there, and I guess they went in and out a back door. But here I'm downstairs getting lap dances, and upstairs the friggin' 4 horsemen are just hanging out doing their thing.
That's again, I think something that we've lost with all this technology. You just don't have those random. Those guys just don't want to come out in public anymore. They just don't. Albert Bell, man. We used to see Albert Bell all the time. And he was drinking water, but I knew, because that was our regular bar, we knew all the bouncers, we knew all the bartenders, So we'd ask them, hey, what's Albert Bell drinking? They're like, he's drinking water. He would be leaned up against the post, just people watching. It was kind of weird because
Albert Bell was kind of a weird cat, though. He had his issues. And...
but he wasn't bothering anybody, and he wasn't stinking drunk.
Yeah.
So you just kind of dealt with it. But you knew you were going to see those guys. Wednesday night at the club was Latin night.
Uh-huh.
So you'd get Jose Mesa, Julian Tavares, Manny Ramirez, all these guys to show up. Manny was an ass.
Yeah.
Manny, if there was anybody I was going to get a scrap with that was a famous person, it was Manny. Because he didn't care if you were with your girlfriend or whoever. He was going to go make his move. And if
I'm Manny Ramirez.
Right, I'm Manny. And if you said something to him about it, he didn't care because he's, he knew if it came down to a scrap, who were the bouncers going to save? Right. They're going to save Manny Ramirez. They not Fred, nobody. I think I was working at the steel mill at the time. So this guy versus Manny Ramirez.
Yeah. We know what side our bread's buttered on.
But we saw, we saw a ton of stuff. I saw Dave Justice get beat up down there. When Charles Barkley threw that guy through the window at the basement, that happened down there.
Wild times down the flats. They still have Nautica down there. Nautica still in the flats.
Yeah, Nautica's.
We saw Melissa Etheridge and Hank Williams Jr. and
they just had Leon Bridges just played there the other day, but they were using it a ton for MMA events.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just weren't, it wasn't like the preferred concert venue because the flats had fallen apart. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So everybody was going to Blossom or the Q or whatever. And so it lost its popularity for probably about a decade as a concert venue. And once that East Bank started to pump back up again, now the concerts are coming back in.
Right.
And but I saw a ton of MMA fights there. I had my cousin's brother used to fight, and he started the same year that Jessica I started and Stipe started and all those guys. So I got to see all those dudes fight when they were fighting in the NAAFS. Where they were fighting.
Rough way to make a living.
And it was, listen, there were...
I'd like to get Jessica I on the show. I think she just moved to Las Vegas.
She's in Vegas. Yeah, I talk to her. I probably talk to her about once a week. I'll let her know. Cool people. When she first started fighting, she had a big wrestling background.
Right.
So her first bunch of fights as amateur, her ground game was there just weren't any other girls whose ground game was like that. And I was watching her she would just manhandle these girls on the ground and then mount them and just pound their brains in.
Yep.
And the coaches at her gym they're big into boxing.
Strong style.
Big into boxing over there. So they really try to pump strikers out of that gym, and that just wasn't her style.
Right.
I saw her go do some straight boxing matches. And you could tell the girls who had grown up boxing versus her, and it was it wasn't even a contest. But Strong Style was dead set on making her a boxer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, she doesn't, her ground game isn't jiu-jitsu or anything like that, but her wrestling, she's got that old school ground and pound style where she's, when she...
Matt Hughes, take him down.
Right.
Hook the legs, or like Khabib does nowadays.
Yeah, it's she's not gonna, submit you. She did submit a girl with a... And she was in some kind of grappling tournament where she ended up submitting a girl with some kind of ankle lock, whatever.
Yeah.
So, like you said, her ground game's not terrible, but her bread and butter was getting you off your feet and then just smashing your head in.
Your legs up, mount you, start smashing.
So I'm curious as to see what her style's going to be now that she switched gyms and she went out to Vegas. And I see her training all the time, but I'd like to see if they switched up her style. And
well, it's smart. It's definitely a smart move. Look what they ruined Ronda Rousey. I mean, who was going to fuck with her when she got a hold of you? But all of a sudden now she thinks she's a boxer, and you go up against Amanda Nunes and Holly Holmes. Fucking, I don't want to box those two. They'll tune you up real fast. And let alone if you're another girl who's just learning this shit. You know, somebody got in her ear and said, "Oh, you got fast hands." Well, yeah, you do, but you don't have Amanda Nunes hands.
No, and that's the thing. You've been in professional things long enough that it's like there's a difference between having a skill set and being great at something.
Right.
You know, there's certain things that I know I'm good at, but I know I'm not in the same league as somebody who's been doing this for. Right. I mean, listen, if I were to go fishing against the guy who's a professional fisherman, you know,
it's good to have the skill, but you're not going to go and put your money on the line doing it.
You know, so it's like, yeah, you might be a better boxer than the amateurs, but
yeah, you got to have everything, but don't switch your game up, you know, because I still think that she could have been the best there ever was if she just would have stuck with what she knew. Survive the initial couple shots, get a hold of a leg, take you down. You know, I don't think anyone could have hung with her on the ground, but, you know, someone told her she was a boxer. And that's good that Jessica's finding a place that's going to... And there's nothing wrong with where she was. It just maybe didn't fit her the way she wanted it to be.
Right.
It might fit Stipe great, you know. It's nice to see that he is finally getting his rematch with Cormier.
Yeah, that the way that the UFC doesn't show any love for Stipe,
they have no love for him.
Amazing, because he's just not what they want him to be.
Right.
He's what we want him to be.
Yes,
like
he's
we
Cleveland.
Absolutely love Stipe. When he won his title, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, when he won the title the first time, he had to go to work after that.
Yeah.
And they made him put on his belt and stand at the end of the driveway and wave to people as they drove by. I'm like, what other champion in any sport is getting his balls busted by his coworkers? Like, who else has coworkers? You know, there's nobody. But the Golden State Warriors aren't going to have to go work their 9 to 5 after they win a title.
He just did a grappling match in a gi. I think it was in Cincinnati. Was that fight to win tournament? But it was just for charity. So he threw the gi on and did a grappling match. I think he lost, but that's not his thing. You know, he just I love Stipe. I hope he wins that next fight, because I think there's some, whether or not they said he got poked in the eyes a couple times, and he should have got an automatic rematch. You're the champ, you lose the belt, you get a rematch. Right. You know, that's just the way it should work. But Dana White don't see it that way.
And the thing was, he wasn't just like the first time champ. He was the
they were calling him the greatest ever.
Right. You know, and you don't get a rematch.
Yeah.
You know,
how long has it been? Well over a year.
And I think Dana White was still butthurt about Stipe working over Nagano or whatever they can say. You know, because
he was a Terminator.
He thought that, they thought that kid was going to be the next coming of.
Everyone was talking about how this guy was it, and he was going to just smash him, and Stipe was like, I got a game plan for this guy, and he ain't going to be able to deal with it. And he wasn't. He was not able to deal with Stipe.
Yeah, the way they plugged that fight, Dana White was convinced that Stipe's head was going to come off of his neck, and blood was going to come squirting out. It was going to be a massacre, and Stipe just went in there and he worked that kid.
Yeah, he had a game plan and worked it.
And I think Dana White was butthurt about it.
Dana seems to always. It's almost like he can't get out of his own way sometimes,
right?
And I don't know if he's the one who sets up all the fights, but maybe he needs someone a little less involved to set up the fights, so you get some sense out of it. It's amazing to me. It was like, all of a sudden Cormier only wanted to fight Lesnar. It was Lesnar. Oh, Lesnar's retired. Okay, so we'll give Stipe a shot.
Right.
What the fuck, It's
like, listen, I understand that WWE is making a certain amount of money, but you're not broke in the UFC.
No, yeah.
So why the theatrics? Why the, because you have fighters that are so good that the theater's already built in.
Sure, yeah.
So why are you? I don't want to watch Lesnar. I don't want,
Yeah.
I don't want to watch Lesnar. That guy's got the ugliest tattoo I've ever seen a rich guy have. That thing is terrible.
On his chest, right?
Like, who was your tat guy?
Fuck, man. Why would you do that?
You got your first big check in that and that's what you got?
It does look like a big dick on his chest when you first see it. And it's like, what is? Oh, it's a knife with whatever.
Yeah, like brass knuckles on a knife and I'm like,
you gotta check your tattoo artist. You gotta, and you have some faith in your tattoo artist that he looks at it and goes, no, this is gonna look like a big dick on your chest.
Right?
No, I want it anyhow. Okay.
Yeah, I see some of those. I always joke that tattoos are like kids. The people who should have them the least usually have a bunch of ugly ones. Right. I'm like.
You start when you're 18 and don't have enough money to get good tattoo artists to work on you.
Right. There's a guy in Cincinnati, Corey Flatmo.
Uh-huh.
I see him at some of his stuff. I'm like, I'm waiting. Like, I want to get a sleeve by this dude, but I know it's not going to be cheap. He did. Corey Flatmo actually did the fake tattoos for the movie Expendables with Stallone. Yeah. So all the tattoos that Stallone had and Mickey Rourke and all those guys, Corey Flatmo designed those. He's got, like, his website is plurabella.com. And I go on there, I'm like, holy crap, this stuff is just amazing. So I'm waiting.
What's it? Plurabella?
Yeah, Plurabella, yeah. But yeah, I discovered him. I was thinking of getting a tat, and I was at the Barnes & Noble in Crocker Park.
Uh-huh.
And
my favorite spots.
My daughter had to use the restroom, so she goes into the restroom, and they had all these magazines, Ohio magazines and stuff, So I'm looking through the magazine, and somebody had hidden a tattoo magazine in behind, like, all these Ohio State magazines. Right. So I start flipping through it. I see the guy's work, and I'm like, holy crap. And he's in Cincinnati, and my daughter lives in Cincinnati with her mom.
You're down there a lot,
yeah. So I'm like, man.
Wow.
I got to go check this guy out. So, yeah, he's just got some crazy stuff.
The only problem with looking at some of these pictures of tattoos is they're always on the worst-shaped humans.
Right.
Beautiful art on people who never go to the fucking gym.
My thought is always, where did you get did you take a loan out? Because that stuff's not... none of that stuff is cheap.
That's probably a $4,000 tattoo right there.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, I'm over here busting my butt working.
That Odin with the eye missing and everything.
Yeah.
We're looking at plurabella.com, plurabella.com. This guy's art is savage. Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, eventually I'm gonna see about getting something by him, but
I go to Andy Therapy Inc. and it was like interviewing tattoo artists when I was looking for stuff, and I go in, and Andy is. Have you ever met Andy?
Yeah, actually, he did. I have on my back from shoulder to shoulder. It says, "God make me worthy of my friends," and it's actually when Hars's mom passed away.
Oh.
That was the poem that they read at the funeral home.
Okay.
So another buddy of ours had passed away years before, but they had never found his body or anything. So when Hars's mom passed away, like a couple weeks after we buried her, the state of New York identified the remains of our other buddy. Wow. And we always joked that, Hars's mom went up to heaven and told our buddy Javier that, hey, man, it's time to...
Yeah.
It's time to let folks know where you are. So right after that, that's when I decided to go get the tattoo. So, yeah, shoulder to shoulder, it says, God make me worthy of my friends. And Andy's the one that did that because that's where Harsa goes for his stuff.
Andy is something. He's second-generation tattoo artist in the area. And what a fucking character that dude is. Holy shit, I didn't like him at first. I told him when I went in, he did my leg tattoo, and I went in, and he said, why haven't you come in here before? And I said, I didn't think I liked you before.
Yeah.
And then after sitting in a chair with him for 18 hours, 3 different sittings, and it's like, oh, I get this guy now. He likes to talk. He just likes to talk.
He does.
What a good dude, man.
He does some of Tim's work too.
Yeah.
And I think he did Tim's Viking stuff, but yeah, we had some of our product in the shop. He used to carry our beard balms and stuff in the shop there, and I don't know if he still does, but yeah, he
did the last time I was in there.
Yeah. He's a good dude.
We didn't even talk about that. Tell me about Midwest.
So Midwest Best was basically kind of the same thing as the brewery. We had a need for something, it wasn't getting met, so we decided to just kind of open our own thing. And what it was I used to grow my beard from Labor Day until St. Patty's Day for work, because I'm working outside, walking all the time. So I'd grow up from Labor Day to St. Patty's Day, and then I'd have a going away party for it.
Yeah, right.
We'd rent a limousine from Safe and Reliable and go downtown Cleveland. Everybody, man, what are you guys partying for? Oh, it's going away party for my beard. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, every year. So I've got just years of going away party pictures for the beard. So the one year, Tim had been growing his beard out, and we, just looking for product. I'd use different stuff. I'd use Honest Amish, Bluebeards, some other stuff. And it worked well, but I just wasn't crazy about the stuff.
Yeah.
And Tim says, man, why don't we make our own stuff? And I'm like, wow, again, just like the brewing. I don't know anything about that, but yeah, why not? So Tim was working with Chris McCaslin.
Right, who I went to high school with.
And she had been making her own stuff. She had allergies to different stuff, so she couldn't use a lot of store-bought things. So she was already making her own lotions and creams and that type of stuff. And Tim asked her if he thought she could make beard balm. She said, yeah. So we went over there, kind of had a R&D session.
Yeah.
And my nose is bad. I can't smell anything
I'm the same way,
ever.
yeah.
So she had Tim kind of smelling the stuff, and I'm kind of smelling the stuff. And I told her that for me, part of the problem I had with the other beard products was my nose is so bad that if I can smell something, I know it's too much.
Yeah.
Right. And there were a couple other products that the smell was just there all day long.
Yeah.
And then it starts to permeate what you're eating. So I'm eating stuff and it tastes like beard product. And so that was one of the main things for us with our product was we wanted the scent to go away. You smell it initially. Hey, that smells nice.
Yeah.
It'll stay there. Somebody else can smell it. If they get close enough to you, somebody else will be able to tell you have product in your beard. But we wanted it to go away for us. And we worked on that, and the very first one we came out with was Morning Beard. And we took it around to some of the shops. The issue is most beard guys are they're very loyal to a product. And if you have a new product, they're really wary of, okay, I don't want to be the first guy using this product. So we had some guys that were using the product, and we were doing well. We actually would do really well at like craft bazaars, that type of stuff. And what it was women who were buying product for their guy.
Sure.
I'm tired of my husband's beard being scraggly, so I need
like French fries.
Right. And, so, and they would tell their husbands, you either use this beard balm or I'm going to make you shave.
Yeah.
So the guys were using the balm. They'd love it. They'd get a hold of us. So we started a website, and we were able to get in. Tim was friends with this guy, Travis, who's a barber at West Park Barbershop. And Travis was able to get us in there. We met Pat, the owner. We met the other barbers. And we started going to different barber events with these guys, showcasing our product, and they'd let people know that they had us in their shop. And because they had enough clout, some of these other shops started to carry us. And then once that happened, now people are like, oh, well, okay, West Park carries you guys. You must be legit.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a product, Lay Right. Lay Right is, if you go to a barbershop and they don't have Lay Right, there's guys who will walk right out of the barbershop.
Right.
You know, because that's the premier pomade and hair product out there.
I've never heard of that because I don't have any hair. So.
Yeah, so it's you know, you see the guys now with the undercut haircuts and the style. Everybody's using Lay Right, you know, because that's okay. This is what this guy's using the stylist hair, so I got to use the Lay Right. So we're trying to get to that point where we have that type of reputation, but we wanted to stay all natural, you know. And
that's important
because. You know, we're just talking about there's so much stuff you're putting on your face that has chemicals in it, and not that I'm any kind of, you know, hippie. I can't have any chemicals, this and that. But if there's no need to put extra in, then why?
I agree.
You know, why wouldn't you do it?
Yep.
So we, you know, some of the issue with beard products when you're not doing all natural is you know, one. Not just the chemicals, but with the all-natural stuff, you're not going to get some of the hold that you get with the other stuff because it doesn't, you know, you're just not going to get beeswax to hold you like a glue is going to hold you. You know? So we got into the all-natural stuff, and then from the beard balm, we started doing the beard oil because there were guys looking for beard oil. And the beard oil went off really well, and we started doing a couple different scents of the beard balm, and that's been going nicely. Then we got into lip balms. We have a friend who owns Fierce Confections in Lakewood.
Yeah.
So she was providing us with chocolate, and we were making either chocolate avocado or chocolate peanut butter lip balm, and it was selling like crazy. But you know, it's such an affordable product that we have to sell a ton of it to make any, you know.
I was just going to ask you about that.
It's like, you know, I might sell 20, but that's basically equivalent of only selling 3 tins of beard balm.
Right.
You know. So it's like, okay, I'm not losing money. You know, the company's we're still making enough money that we haven't had to come out of our pocket in forever, but we're just trying to get to that next level with the product. So we recently did changed our logo. You know, we had some people that were like, well, you know, I see your logo and I'm not sure what you guys are selling.
Yeah.
You know, so we went from the black and white, it just said MWBG on it, to the logos now. It has some colors in it, and it said Midwest on it, and we think with that we'll be able to get back into some of these other barbershops that were kind of on the fence about us. And then you've got the people that are, well, you know, beards were a trend, and we think the trend is going away and this and that. And I'm like, listen, it was only a trend for people who get into trends. The rest of us bearded guys, we still need this product. You know, if the trend goes away, there's still need for the product.
I think the difference is it's not a trend, but now guys are actually taking care of their beards.
Right.
And I never did that until, you know, recently. It was just like, I had a beard, I just grew it, you know. But once you start taking care of it, it's a lot softer, and you know, your chick doesn't bitch that it's. I mean, listen, we want our women to be completely hairless, you know, but we got these big fucking giant beards, you know. It's crazy, but you know, once I started taking care of mine, it changes the game, you know. It smells good. It you know, it's softer. It's not this scraggly, you know, hard beard with it's like a Brillo pad. And I tell people all the time, you know, just go check it out. Just grab some beard balm and some oil, and it'll make a big difference. You know?
Yeah, our motto is, you know, never be fine with being unrefined. Yeah, and it was just one of those things where, again, if you've studied any amount of history or look back, like, man, God, there were just centuries of us being dapper as hell.
Sure.
You know, I can look back at old black and white photos of my grandpa, and I knew we were poor. I knew he was poor. You know, and I knew everybody he knew was poor, but man, were they well dressed and well groomed, and the shoes were shined, and so you know, somebody in our era, if they looked at a picture of my grandfather, they'd never guess that guy was poor,
right?
You know, and I think we've lost some of that.
Yep.
You know, you go out in public now, and you're like, yes, poor person.
Well, it'll irritate me now because we'll go out somewhere real nice, and my wife and I will get dressed to the nines and go out, and you go out to a nice dinner, and then right next to you some dude, you know, in a t-shirt or something. It's like, aren't you embarrassed to be in this restaurant dressed like that? You know, you're
right.
in Chez fucking Francois. You know, dress for the occasion. You know,
I
always have to be in shorts. You know,
I heard I heard the podcast, the Chez Francois podcast.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I just don't think there's many of those places left, and I wish there were.
Yeah.
The warehouse district and the flats. During the 90s, you couldn't get into a club in the warehouse district unless you had a collared shirt or a jacket on.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I tell people that, and they're like, what? Really? I said, yeah, the East Bank and the West Bank were for the regular Joes who were dressed regular.
Right.
But the warehouse district was, if you weren't dressed to go out, they were not going to let you in the club. Yeah. They just weren't.
I look at when you go to Chez Francois, and you listen to that podcast, and he has so much pride and passion for that restaurant, and he's not going to let you in unless you have a suit jacket on, and I love that. You go to some of these restaurants in Cleveland, though. Beautiful, the food's great, you know. But the environment isn't the same because they don't care. You're going to come in, you can wear, you know, on one table there's going to be a guy in a suit and a tie. The next table there's going to be a guy in jeans and a t-shirt, and they're just selling you food, and they're trying to get you out of there as fast as possible. So there's no experience like Chez. We went to a place, Catch 35 in Chicago last weekend, and it was kind of a mix. So it was a dining experience. I think we took 2 hours to eat dinner, and you had your cocktails, and then you had your appetizer course. There's a guy up, you know, we're all dressed up real nice. There's a guy on the next table in a fucking Cubs jersey, you know, and it's just like, man, I think it's okay for these restaurants to put standards on you and say, this is what we expect of you, and this is the kind of establishment we have, and if you don't want to eat here, fine. But if you do, you're going to dress up nice, and you're going to spend $200 on dinner.
Right.
You know?
We, so, you know, I do a lot of little traveling, and it's usually with the same group of people. It's usually my buddy Sean, my friend Sunshine, and Tim started coming with us lately, but it's usually Sean and Sunshine. And we've been traveling together for, man, probably 10 years now. And we just know that pack a dinner jacket, a nice pair of shoes, you know, a nice pair of pants and a button-up shirt, and Sunshine, she'll take a pair of dress shoes and, you know, and a nice dress or whatever, because we know one night, you know, if we're there for 3 days or if we're there for a week, one night we're going to go someplace nice. We're grown-ups.
Yes,
you know, we're going to go someplace nice and have a nice meal and dress up and just go out like we're grown folks.
Yeah.
And you know, all three of us, well, Sean's not anymore, but all three of us are single. We've been single for, you know, I've been single for like 14 years now.
Right.
But it's always nice that we'll go out and I'm like, okay, I know my chances are better hooking up with my, you know, I'm dressed like I have a job and I take care of myself and whatever. But it's just nice. It's just nice to go into a spot and be dressed like an adult. I'm like, man, I'll be 45 in December. You know, I shouldn't be going to this restaurant dressed like I'm 18.
Yeah,
I just shouldn't.
I agree. We do the same thing. We go somewhere. Usually go somewhere. We go to St. Pete Beach and we eat at the same restaurant almost every night we're there. This little place called Sea Critters, and you go dressed like this, and you're out on the intercoastal waterway, and there's fucking dolphins every time you're down there. People are just pulling up in boats, and you know, just cocktails and regular like bar type food, and we love it. We go there all the time, but you know, we always pack something. We're gonna go out nice some night and just do it up right. And I think that's important. People need to do that, and you know, if it means saving up a couple pennies to get it done, I think it's worth the experience.
Yeah. I went on a booze cruise one time, and we were going for somebody's birthday. We were just going from Sandusky out to Kelly's Island.
Yep.
And we had gone somewhere to eat prior, and I think it was Sunshine's birthday. It was somebody's birthday. So I had my shoe shined up. I had a pair of jeans on, but I had my shoe shined up and a nice dress shirt. And the booze cruise is kind of a mixed crowd. I don't know if you've ever been on it, but so I'm on the boat and I'm drinking, I'm hanging out and having a good time. And this girl comes over and she looks me up and down and then gives me a sneer, and she was like, "What's up, Mr. Shiny Shoes?"
Wow, that's a cut down.
Right. And I look around, and she looks and she's like, "Yeah, you, what's up with the shiny shoes?" And I'm like,
"How do you respond to that?"
Right. Well, I said, "Well, what's up with the dirty butt?" And she goes, "What?" I'm like, whatever. I just turn around. Like, why would you? One, you don't know me at all. And why would you think to just...
She was probably flirting with you, and it was her weird, awkward way of doing it.
Listen, if she was flirting with me, it was the worst flirt of all time. I took it as she was trying to come at me. I'm like, back to the beard stuff. The freedom with which people will say something disparaging about your beard.
God.
They think they have free reign to just talk shit about your beard.
Yep.
I'm like, what other body part could I do that with? Could I go up to somebody and be like, I really don't like your nose.
Right.
It's terrible. You should fix your nose.
People do that with anything out of the ordinary, though. We were at our own wedding. So we were at our wedding. My wife had told my mother-in-law, "Hey, don't invite this person because I don't really know her, and every time I met her, she's kind of been a pain in the ass." Mother didn't listen, invited this lady anyhow. So we're in the receiving line. We had this beautiful ceremony in this place that looked like something out of Game of Thrones. Looked like a Viking drinking hall. It was outside on the Mississippi River, and beautiful ceremony. And my wife looked fantastic. She looked like a bride out of like the 1920s, pinup girl style. And she had just gotten her arm sleeve, so it was beautifully done and really super colorful and has a lot of meaning to what she had got done on there. She was super proud of it. And I'm all tatted up, and we're standing there, and here comes this woman up the aisle. "No congratulations, no, you look beautiful." She's like, "Oh, I see your arms tattooed up." And Aaron was like, yeah, I just got it done. And she goes, "Well, my mother told me if you don't say anything nice, you shouldn't say anything at all." And walks off. And I'm like grabbing Aaron by the waist. You can't beat the fuck out of this woman on your wedding day. And, afterwards we're like, "Bernie, why did you invite this woman to, the one thing she said was something nasty to us, we just paid for this woman's meal, And, but yeah, you're right. People would just come up and say shit to you,
Yeah, I don't, I take it I'm a pretty again, never been in a fight in my life, so I'm a pretty relaxed guy, but it just baffles me that filter's not there for those people, complete stranger. I'm not a small guy,
right?
So I'm just gonna walk up to this big hairy dude and insult him, and he should be okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, on what planet is that okay?
Well, none of them have their houses in order. They're always some sloth.
Something. And I have to, I'll usually look at whatever their issue is on them,
right. And you want to say something.
Right. I'm like, all right. Maybe God just didn't make your brain function properly, and I'm not gonna. But yeah, I've just gotten used to it. I just walk around and people they'll just make a comment about the beard, and I'm like, all right, that's fine.
This is me.
Right. If you don't like it, it's great.
Yeah.
If you do like it, that's great. But I've just never been in a habit. It's just weird to me. It's just never been in a habit. It just randomly.
I can't imagine just going up and talking shit to somebody who you've never met before, and that's the first thing that comes out of your mouth. It's like, fuck.
Like, again, could I go up to somebody and be like, those pants really look like crap on you.
Your ass is kind of fat.
Right. I can see your oatmeal from the back. So it's I joke the beard's kind of its own personality.
Yeah, like
now.
Character.
Like, people want, man, can I touch your beard? Can I, whatever? I'm like, again, it's strange to me, but sure, okay.
Put your filthy hands in my beard.
Yeah. I usually use the opportunity to pitch the beard balm.
Yeah. I love the Hemingway stuff. I got that from when you guys were at Anvil Crom here at the gym. I love that stuff.
Yeah, we wanted to go. Most of the beard balm names it's fun stuff.
Yeah.
The Morning Wood. We've got the Black River, Naughty or Spice. We've got one called Faces Loaded. But we wanted one. We knew that we had some shops that were a little more high end.
Yeah.
And they wanted something a little more serious on their shelves. And I knew that, a label with a giant rooster cock on it wasn't going to hit in your shop. Right. So Tim had gone down to the Hemingway house.
Yeah.
And he took that picture of the typewriter.
Yes. Yep.
And I was able to, Photoshop it into the label that we have now. And the scent was just, it's become one of our best sellers.
Yeah, I love it. Have you ever been down to Key West, speaking of the Hemingway house?
No,
gotta go, man.
I've been down. Florida's one of those places where I've never been excited to go to Florida, because in my head, if I'm going to take the flight to Florida, I'll just take the extra flight to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, right.
Right. I'm close enough that, okay, well, how about I go somewhere I can get fed for free?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Because for me, it's always about the meal.
Yeah.
Not that I can't eat good in Florida, but I can't eat for free in Florida.
Can't eat for free, for sure.
So the last time I was in Florida, I went to Fort Lauderdale.
Uh-huh.
Went to Fort Lauderdale for a wedding, hung out there, but I haven't been to the Keys yet, and everybody keeps telling me, man, you got to go down.
My favorite place on the planet, Key West, Florida. I'm going down. This is good. My wife has a girls' trip. She hasn't seen these two girls that she lived with in college for a long time, maybe 7 years. The one's getting married. The other one just had a brand new baby. They're going to go down. They're going to do 3 days in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. They're staying at this place we have down there. And she's like, oh, what are you going to do while I'm gone? I sat there for a second, and I go, I think I'm going to go to Key West. She goes, who are you going to go to Key West with? I'm going to go all by myself. I'm going to stay in the place we always stay in, and I'm going to walk Duval Street during the day, and I'm going to go hang out at the beach at night, or hang out at the beach during the day, and I'm going to go hang out at the Chart Room Bar at night. And I set up a couple podcasts down there, and you are closer in Key West, Florida. You're closer to Havana than you are to a Walmart. I mean, if you think about that. You're 90 miles from Miami. You're 90 miles from Havana. And it's, I always call it's the Caribbean with American money. It's a whole different place. You want to walk from this bar to that bar, and you don't want to slam your drink down? No problem. Just walk across the street or walk down. No open container laws. You're allowed to drink however you want. Women walking down the street with painted boobs, nobody gives a shit. Very little cops. You hardly see any police at all because people are just cool. All the storefronts will say, all the ones that will say, gay and lesbian owned. And if you were to fuck with those people down there, I mean, there is no bigotry at all. Everyone is every different shape and size and color and sexual orientation, and it's just one of those cities that I always say, like Austin's another one, or Nashville or Calgary and the New Orleans, where it's just like it's a whole different breed of people down there.
Yeah, and you go to these places and you're torn because you're like, I wish more people could experience this, so maybe they'll change, but I'm afraid that they might come down and ruin this.
That's a good point.
You know,
Yep.
it's like, I'd like you to come see this because maybe, I always call it the curse of the cousin. You'd go downtown Cleveland, you'd find a great spot. So you'd tell your buddy, you and your buddy are going. And now your buddy tells another buddy. So now you guys are going. And then, like, that fourth tier friend would always tell their asshole cousin about this place, and they'd ruin it. You'd go down there, and this guy who you kind of know because he's related to a guy you kind of know is now in there with his a-hole buddies, and there were a group of guys in Cleveland that whenever I saw them somewhere, I'm like, this place is done. Yeah. It's ruined. If these guys are coming here now, then it's done. And it's the same way when you vacation somewhere. I go somewhere and I'm like, God, I hope this group of people doesn't discover this place because I just don't want the dynamic to change. I used to go to Toronto like every other year. I like Toronto. Love Toronto. Yeah. And we would go for the Carabana Festival. And the Carabana Festival is like the big Caribbean festival in Toronto. But, when I think Caribbean, I would think Puerto Rico. But in there, it's the Jamaicans and Trinidad. And
we were actually up there right before it started a couple years ago. We saw Ziggy Marley performing. He was doing his sound check, and we're standing behind the stage watching Ziggy Marley.
Carabana was amazing. Like, in my early 20s. Yeah. Well, then some of the rappers would go up to Carabana, and they started rapping about it. Yeah. And so there were people like, man, what's this thing that so-and-so is rapping about? Yeah. Let me go up.
And all their asshole cousins showed up.
Man, we went the one year we went up. Place was packed. Every club that we used to go to, now the cover charge was doubled. Yeah. There was just nonsense. I'm like, man, you guys ruined it. This thing was perfect. It was the most perfect little party. I could drive there from Cleveland. Yeah, that's not a bad drive. No. Had a great time. Like Shaq. We met Shaq at the one club. It was a club called The Government. Big warehouse, chains hanging down from the ceiling. We see this behemoth in the crowd. We're like, man, who in the hell is that? We get closer. It's Shaq. He's just hanging out in Toronto. No, no fanfare, no nothing, just having a good time. But yeah, once Carabana got popular, like, they priced all the regular guys out. Like, I'm like, dude, I'm not paying $50 cover charge, just because Ludacris is going to be here tonight or whatever. So I'm like, I still go. I try to go for an Indians game. Yeah. Right. And the friends, actually, most of the friends that I had in Toronto have moved. Like, one of them moved to Germany. The other one just moved to San Jose. So the people that I know that I usually hang out with aren't there. But I'm actually a member of the Toronto Browns backers. Oh, yeah. So when I go there, I can go to the Browns backers bar, and I have a card. I get a 10% discount in Toronto. So
there's Browns backers everywhere.
I'm gonna go there in October. Yeah, hang out with those guys. But it was one of those places. It was like, God bless, I love Toronto, until everybody else found out about it. Yep. And I'm like, Nashville.
Yeah, I love Nashville.
I love Nashville, but I don't want to tell people I love Nashville. Right. Yeah. Because it's the number one bachelorette party spot.
Is it really?
It's bigger than Vegas. Wow. But I don't want to tell people that, because...
Well, you just told 10,000 people.
Right, because you go down there, you've been to Nashville. You go down to Nashville, it's like 80% women down there. And groups, it just groups them. They're all riding those pedal bars.
Yes, which sounds like a horrible idea to me.
Terrible. I think worse than the pedal bars was there were all these guys that had pickup trucks with the extended beds. Yes. Right. And there were just like 6 women in the back of this pickup truck drinking, not strapped in. Right. There was no zero safety, anything.
Get on in, let's go.
Right. But they're allowed to do it. I was talking to somebody about it, and they said basically it's like buying a limo license, right? And now your truck counts as this limo thing, and the women are allowed to drink in the back.
What a way to make a living!
And I'm like, if I'm going to retire from the post office anytime soon, I'm going to go drive a truck full of drunk women down in Nashville. Right. But yeah, loved that time. People were really nice. The music was just, I'm a big. We're walking around the one day. It's early and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. We're just walking down Main Street there, and I hear somebody playing Purple Rain.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely just hammering it.
Yeah.
Like, God, I got to go find out where this is. And we went, and it's, some little rinky-dink place with a rooftop that the guy's up there playing Prince songs on the rooftop. And I'm like, Cleveland's the rock and roll capital, and we don't have anything like that.
No, we really don't.
Like all those venues we had, the Odeon and all these other places that you could go see live music when we were younger. All that stuff is done, But Nashville's murdering it right now.
Every single bar has live music, and it's all off the chart.
Yeah, there was a kid playing the one night we were there. So I was there. Again, I try to go to a away Browns game every year, so they were playing in Nashville that day. The Indians were in the World Series against the Cubs, and Nashville Predators were in the finals. So it was a ton of people there for that. And I think Ohio State was playing Wisconsin that weekend or something. So it was just a ton of sports people everywhere. Yeah. So the bars were all packed with sports people. I'm like, it's a hit or miss crowd. Like either everybody's going to be super cool or they're going to be a bunch of drunk a-holes, and you got to be on your toes. So we're at this little bar, and there's this band playing, and there's this heavy-set kid with glasses, and he's just playing the shit out of the blues. He's just absolutely, I'm loving it. And he goes, "Man, who's here from Ohio?" We're like, "Oh man, well, I'm from Ohio. All my friends we're from Ohio." And he's like, "Where are you guys from?" I'm like, "Well, we're from Lorain." He goes, "I'm from Elyria." Like, what? This kid's down there. Yeah. So I took some video of him, and I posted on my Facebook, and I have some friends that play around town. They're like, "Oh man, we know that kid. We play with him. He used to play at Mutt and Jeff's. He'd play at all these places."
Who it was?
I have to ask my buddy Terry. I do not remember the kid's name, but he was down there just slaying. Yeah. And I'm like, happy for the kid, but at the same time, man, why are we not promoting that here? Right. Why are we not, at the brewery? Every Tuesday night at the brewery is jam night. Right. I've got these local musicians that come in, and they're just killing it. Yeah. And what they love about it is they used to go play at Brothers Lounge. You ever go to Brothers Lounge? It's off of 117th Street, and it's a blues bar. And they have just jam nights, I think, on Thursday nights at Brothers Lounge. And you have all these local musicians just go jam blues all night. And it's a cool little spot. So we have musicians in this area they're happy now that they don't have to drive out to Cleveland to jam. So they're coming to our spot on a Tuesday and jamming. And again, why are we not promoting you guys? You guys are some of the best guitarists and drummers.
Well, and it goes back to why you opened the brewery in the first place. It was your dad. You bitching that you didn't have this around. Well, I guess I'll just do it. Well, there's no place to see live music anymore. I guess I'll just do it.
Right.
And that's awesome. It's great that there. We've got places like that now.
Yeah, and I think I keep telling people that the reason I'm succeeding in what I'm doing is that I'm too dumb to know when I'm failing.
Right.
I think you get so many smart people that try something.
Right.
And they're smart enough to recognize failure, and then they bail.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. You're smart enough to recognize failure, but you also got to recognize that everybody, like, this is the phase that everybody goes through.
Yeah.
Whether it's in sports or, like, even if you could be the smartest guy in the world, you're still going to come up against something that you're like, man, I don't know this.
Yeah.
And so with the business aspect, you're going to come to that phase where, like, it's failing simply because you don't know. You've never been to this point. Sure. You don't know what you're doing. So a lot of these people bail instead of figuring it out and then kind of forcing their way through it and eating that shit sandwich for a little bit, coming out.
And valleys.
And I always joke that I was just too dumb to know when I was supposed to pull out.
Right.
And I ended up pulling through it,
right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on the other side of this now.
It's a good lesson for people to learn, a little stick-to-itiveness. But yeah, I mean, the gym and everything, we have peaks and valleys, and we've talked about how our membership numbers, our membership hasn't changed much. We got about the same amount of members as we always have, but our daily attendance looks different. And we were trying to figure out why that is. But it used to be we would have all these transient members. So someone who would be there for a week and then they would quit, or someone who would, pay their monthly membership and show up once a week. And I would get on this fucking phone every night and go, why weren't you in the gym today? What's going on? Get your butt in the gym. And it was literally spending hours corralling all these people into the gym. And then you get these shitty people into the gym who took up 90% of your time. And I'm wanting to focus on, Allison over here, who's just killing it and wants me to work with her and never misses a class, but I can't because now I got all these transient members in here that I'm trying to just make happy to be in the gym, and because I'm literally concerned with their fitness. And then I said, fuck that. I'm just going to work with Allison here.
Right.
And if we have 70 people on the board instead of 98 people on the board, who the fuck cares? Those 70 people are in it and they're killing it and they're my people. And it was a whole different mindset. But it was, for a while, they were like, why is our attendance so different? Well, I'm not on my phone every night dragging people into the gym. And it was a lesson to learn, but the gym is a better place now that I don't have all these transient members running through.
Yeah, it's the same with the brewery. We've got I get people come in. Well, why don't you have this kind of beer, or why don't you have this kind of beer, or whatever. And I usually, well, we're working on that. We're doing this and that. But in my head, it's, I'm not going to make a beer just for you when I know you're probably just going to come in here one time. Yep. I can recognize the people who are going to come back versus the people that they're checking it out for the first time and, oh, this is a cool little spot. And, maybe I have the kind of beer you like, maybe I don't. But even if I do have the kind of beer you like, you're probably not going to come back.
Yep,
you're going to try the next microbrewery and the next thing, and that's fine.
Yep.
So we're over there making beer for our regulars.
For your people.
I got people that come in and they're super excited that, oh man, the Ghost Ship Porter's back on tap. This is why I come here.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I make it. Because we're taking care of our people. We do like 4 regular beers on tap all the time, and then 2 that rotate out. And it's whatever Chris feels like making. This week he feels like making an IPA. Next week he feels like making a pale ale. And because we're such a small brewery, we're able to, we can afford to do that.
Sure.
A lot of these bigger breweries, they can't, their equipment is so big that they can't afford to just have a dick around batch of beer.
Right.
Because if it fails, now they're dumping, a couple hundred gallons of if Chris makes a beer and it fails, that's 50 gallons of beer that he's only dumped, he's probably only dumped maybe 3 times. And we know even the big breweries dump.
Sure.
Sure. So he's maybe dumped only 3 times. A lot of time Chris will figure out what the flavor profile is for it. We'll name it something fun, and people come in and they drink it, and we just never make it again.
Right.
They still like it, but it was something that it wasn't what he wanted it to be. So it's like, if I was trying to make fried eggs and I screwed up and ended up just scrambling them, right. I'm not going to throw them out, right? But it wasn't, I know it wasn't the fried eggs I was trying to make, and that's with him with the beer. Like the IPA's been we call it his white whale.
Right.
He has this thing in his head of what he wants his IPA to be, and even though the IPAs keep coming out great, people love them. He tastes it, and it's not what he had in his head of what this thing was supposed to taste like. So we name it something. The one time we had a fail ale. It was a fail. He was like, dude, this was
strike one.
Right. It was not what I was shooting for, but it was still good, and people drank the hell out of it. It was a good beer, but for him it was a failure because it wasn't what he was shooting for.
Right.
But yeah, I just think that there's too many businesses out there that are trying to make the masses happy, instead of focusing on this loyal group of, these are the people that are going to get me through the hard times and get me up and running, and
your community, your tribe.
Right. And that, again, going back to how we grew up, there was a little place in South Lorain called Bill's Bakery. Mm-hmm. And it was just, a little Greek family. It was two brothers. No, it was this guy and his wife, and then the wife's brother. And from the time I was a little kid, like 4 years old, they would call me Mr. Lozano. Mr. Lozano, 4 years old.
Yeah.
6, 8, 10, my entire life. They closed up shop. I think my daughter was like 3 or 4 years old when they finally shut down the bakery.
Wow.
But I took her in to the shop, one of the last times they were open. And it was cool as hell to go in there with my daughter now. Right. Mr. Lozano, how are you? How's your daughter?
Yeah.
These people, they're all gray hair now, But to know that, man, you guys have been calling me Mr. Lozano for my entire, 20-something years. You've been calling me this. And I just think that we missed that dynamic with business now. Giovanni's Pizza. Pizza's great, but I love that I can call in and tell them my name, and they don't need my phone number. They don't need any verification that this is like, oh, okay, Mr. Lozano, we got your stuff. And we're trying to do that with the brewery that, do I love the people who are coming in to just kind of check it out for the first time? Yes. But more than that, it's the people that come in, they want to give me a hug.
Yeah, right.
Shake my hand, tell me how their kids are doing. Next week will be 21 years I've been a mailman in Berea. I've been on the same route for 20 of those years.
Wow.
I get invited to weddings. I've gone to graduation parties. I go to all the, and people are like, you invite your mailman to your wedding? And the people are like, yeah, he's family. He's at my house house more than anybody else.
They've got history with you.
Right. And I just think with our businesses, and the same with you and your business, you're trying to build this history with these people, because money's easy to make. You can go make money anywhere.
It's America. Yep.
It's so I've got my 9 to 5. The postal job is my bread and butter.
Yeah.
So this brewery wasn't. We've got people like, oh man, you could be making this amount of money with this brewery. No, that's not what this brewery's for. Yeah. Is it going to make me money? Of course, it's going to make me money. But more than anything, I had to make a spot for myself that this is our, we're going to bring back some of this old school community feel. We've had reunions, high school reunions, like impromptu.
Right.
That they'll just show up. There's 8 people that happen to be in town at the same time. Man, where can we meet up at? Well, let's go check this new brewery out.
Yeah.
And they come in here and we start chit-chatting, and I always joke that the easiest pickup line in Lorraine, you go up to any girl in Lorraine, you go, hey, don't you know my cousin?
Yeah, right.
And she will talk to you for 10 minutes trying to figure out who you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when people come into the brewery, it's the same thing. Like, hey, do you know so-and-so, whatever.
Everybody around here is related.
And
Everybody.
And so we want to start a conversation at the brewery and get people to reconnect. We always joke about we have cell phones and these computers and all this stuff, but we're so disconnected from real people. You can text message IM or whatever. Like, when's the last time you sat down and just had a conversation with somebody about anything?
That's why I love this podcast. We've been sitting here for, God damn it, 2 hours. No phones. Nobody's looking at their phones. We're just having a conversation. And that art is lost on people. And it's not just kids. It's people our age who just have that head down the whole time and are just staring at that phone. There's nothing fucking on there for you,
When we went to Iceland, again, I like to travel these places and observe the people. One of the first things I observed when I was out in Iceland, people didn't gossip about each other at a bar.
Right.
Sitting in the bar, you go to any bar around here, and you're going to hear somebody talking about somebody else.
Yep.
Whether it's a coworker or a family member, they use that opportunity to be out being social to to bitch about somebody else, gossip, whatever. Everywhere I went in Iceland, they talk about the weather, they talk about sports, they talk about anything but someone who wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I asked the one guy, like, what is it? I've noticed this. And he says, no, we do that, but we do that in private. Like, that is not my complaint about somebody else is not a public conversation. I might
do it with your wife at home.
Right.
Yeah.
There's just the level of respect for other, because they know that, maybe I've got an issue with somebody that nobody else has.
Yeah.
But now I've caused an issue between somebody else and them because, I was out talking smack about them in public. I mean, how many times have you gotten an opinion about somebody you've never met just because what you heard about them from somebody gossiping?
100%. I've had people like that, and I'll tell my wife, well, I've had people on this show. So I had a guy on this show last summer, and all I heard was shit about him from people in the strength and conditioning community, and I don't know how many of those people actually knew him. They heard somebody had a problem with him, and the rumor spread, and the rumor spread. So by the time it got to me, I was like, I don't even know if I want to have this guy on the show. Went down, had a fantastic conversation with him, and whether he actually was a dirtbag at one time and now has evolved, or I'm a pretty good judge of character. I don't think he was fooling me, and it's hard to fool somebody when you sit down and talk to him for an hour and a half.
Right.
And I got a totally different vibe on him. And now, when I talk to him online, it's, hey, brother, because I get the guy. And I'm glad I didn't listen to people because, like you said, you're getting secondhand opinions about somebody. Somebody has a problem with him. Now 6 people have a problem with him. They've never even met the guy.
Yeah. I every once in a while, somebody will come to me with something that they heard somebody else say about me. Again, my dad and my uncles grew up in Lorain. They've been in Lorain since the 40s.
Yeah.
Had a reputation for whatever. So I understand that some of my reputation is from what people have gleaned from my family. But end of the day, man, come have a conversation with me. I have beer.
Right.
Come sit down,
have a beer
with me, and we can hash it out. But we've lost that art of just being able. The name of the brewery is Bascule Brewery and Public House, and we really wanted to stress the public house part of that. Come down, sit down, and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Even if it's not to connect, and we've had a ton of connection there. Maybe it's to hash something up. Maybe it's clarity.
Yeah.
You're going to sit down with somebody that you had an opinion about that you've never met in your entire life, and all of a sudden you guys are drinking beer, and you're like, holy crap, I was wrong about you, or I was right about you.
Right.
But now firsthand. There's so much secondhand nonsense going around. But yeah, I've listened to almost all the episodes of the podcast. Just the relationship that you have with your buddies and the experience that you had when you were competing, that type of stuff. It's there's so many people that they don't appreciate a conversation like that as something. They hear a strongman competition or Highland Games or whatever. I don't have any interest in that. Why not? Why?
Right.
It's something nothing about.
Right.
Involving human beings.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of discipline and a lot of effort put into it.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I didn't like popular sports.
Right.
I didn't like baseball, football, or anything. My dad was a beast of a baseball player, and everybody tells me he was an animal on the football field, and it just wasn't in my nature to be that kind of guy. But I loved Olympic sports.
Yeah.
I watch, if you ask me who was playing for the Indians in the 80s, I have no idea. But if you ask me back then to name the top 10 hurdlers in the world, I was like, oh man, this is Roger Kingdom, Ronaldo Nehemiah, all these, those guys were the guys, because in my head, that's the true world champion. That guy's competed against the world. We can call the NFL guys the world champs, but there was nobody from Japan on that team. You know, there was nobody from wherever. But you know, Carl Lewis was running against the world.
Yeah.
You know, so I always kind of gravitated towards those guys. So 7th grade, I joined the track team. And I'm fast, but I'm not fast enough to compete with the 8th graders.
Right.
You know, so the coach is like, listen, I know you guys play football. You know, you got a decent amount of strength. Whatever. I was a string bean.
Right.
I graduated high school. I was 6'1", 175 pounds when I graduated. You know, I spent some time in the gym. It didn't help any. You know,
just burning everything off.
But so 7th grade, the coach is like, listen, we don't have anybody throwing shot put or discus. You know, it was me and my best friend Roy. We call Roy White Lightning. The guy was fast as hell, but he was country strong.
Right.
You know, so they had Roy running the anchor of the 4x100 team, but he was also throwing shot put and discus. You know, so they had us throw shot and disc, 7th grade, and I did all right. Roy was killing people. You know, but I wanted to hurdle. I wanted to be a hurdler, but we had hurdlers. And I was afraid to tell the coach that, hey man, I want to be a hurdler.
Yeah.
You know, so I went through my entire 7th grade year never telling the coach that I'm happy to be on a track team and throwing shot and disc is kind of cool, but I want to be a hurdler.
Right.
You know, he'd let me run the 200 every once in a while, or long jump or high jump, whatever we were missing a guy. You know, he knew that I was good enough to place. I wasn't good enough to win, but I was probably going to place in these events. So, you know, let's just pick up some team points. So the next year, I built my own hurdles in the alley behind my house, like 4 of them. I had 4 hurdles, and I practice. Next year, track season, okay, I know I'm throwing shot and discus. Like, coach, man, I really want to hurdle. You know. It's like, what do you know about hurdling? I'm like, man, I'm telling you,
I got this.
You know, so they set the hurdles up. It was at Whittier. You know, we didn't have a track, so the hurdles are in the parking lot, you know, at Whittier. He has the 2 hurdlers that were on the team the year before. He has them to go, and they do a good job. And he's like, all right, show me what you got. Friggin' 3-step the hurdles the whole way down.
Yeah.
He's like, Jesus Christ. What?
Where did you come from?
How come you didn't tell me you could do this? You know, I'm like, I've been practicing in my alley. He's like, in your alley? I said, yeah, I built these hurdles out of sticks and string.
Yeah.
You know, I've been practicing. He goes, listen, I'm not going to have you run any track meets on the hurdles all season long, but you're gonna run in the city meet.
We're gonna unleash you.
I don't want anybody to know that you can do this. You know, you're gonna practice, but we're gonna have these other guys run until the city meet. And I'm like, it felt like every cockamamie 80s movie you've ever seen.
Yeah, right?
You know,
Totally.
So I'm like, all right, okay, fine. So I'm throwing shot and disc all season. He's got me running to 200 every once in a while just to get used to coming out of the blocks and that type of stuff. City meet comes, and because I've never run a race, I get lane 1.
Yeah.
I get the shitty lane, which for a hurdler, lane 1 is death.
Yeah.
It's just stupid, So I got freaking mustache goatee, 8th grade. I started shaving in 6th grade.
Nice.
Mustache goatee, my glasses. My neighbor's son-in-law was the starter. So he goes, Freddie, you run the hurdles? I said, yeah. He goes, you any good? I'm like,
We're going to see.
Yeah. He goes, all right, I'm going to see what you got. So the 2 kids from Hawthorne who'd been burning up the track all season long, they get the 2 middle lanes, and they're, yeah, we're racing 1-2, 1-2. Everybody else is racing for third. They're just talking smack, trying to get in everybody's head. And I'm in lane 1 with my freaking glasses on, and, just race starts. Boom, I'm gone. Bad out of hell. Yeah. I cross the finish line. I turn around. There's still 3 hurdles behind me. The next guy's freaking 3 hurdles behind me. And it was just one of the moments where I'm like, had I been your typical baseball, football, whatever kid, I'd have never experienced this thing. They would have put me into, I played football as a tight end in football, and I played a little baseball, but I didn't love it.
Right.
So to cross that finish line is something I loved. That was, it's not popular. It's not, it's hurdles.
Right.
There's nobody giving out hurdling. Yeah. You're not gonna get a Nike to come and, that's not back then.
Or the private jet.
Yeah. And so I ended up taking first in the hurdles. I took second in the shot put, and I just missed placing in the discus that year. So next year, 9th grade, they raised the hurdles up.
Right.
We got that shitty cinder track at Southview, So I'm running on this cinder nonsense. I'm the only hurdler on the team. Our track team only had probably 8 guys.
I remember going up against Southview when I was in high school. There weren't very many people.
Yeah, our sprinters were monsters. We had Curtis. Curtis was our shot putter.
Yeah.
I'm the only hurdler. Did okay that season, and then the levy failed, and bang, no more track.
No more track. Now no more Southview.
Yeah. So I just, my daughter plays softball now. She's been a softball player since like 8th grade. But I told her, listen, man, I don't care if it's the popular thing, whatever it is, whether it's sports or whatever. If it calls to you, man, go after it.
It's an important lesson for kids to learn, and more kids need to follow what they really want to do instead of always getting into the same stuff everybody else does. And it's hard for kids because you want to follow the popular route. But
yeah, and and you've got the school system that shuffles these kids into, well, hey, this is where your best chance at whatever is going to be.
Yeah, I hate that.
Maybe it's not. Maybe
travel baseball when they're 10 years old and
right.
Shit like that. It's let these kids play.
I heard an interview with Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
And asked him, what made you such a good linebacker? And he said, wrestling.
Yeah.
He said, I was a good wrestler. He said, so, the football part of football where getting from point A to B, great. Knowing how to finish when I got there, wrestling.
Huge.
Right,
yeah.
Orlando Pace. I played football against Orlando Pace.
I remember him. Yeah.
People don't know. He was a great basketball
Sandusky
player.
High School.
Yeah. Great basketball player. His footwork, his football footwork was from basketball.
Yeah. Good shot putter too. Good shot putter.
Yeah, that dude was I said he was Shaq before Shaq.
Right. Around here he was,
yeah,
for sure.
I saw that guy dunk on people, and I'm like, there's no way a guy that size should be dunking on people.
Yeah.
But we had so many multi-sport athletes when we were growing up that I just think they were more versatile.
Yeah.
You've got these guys now. I mean, how many guys in the NFL now get drafted, big offensive tackle, whatever. He gets to the NFL, and his footwork is shit now.
Right.
Well, why? How were you so dominant? Well, they were a one-sport athlete who was just bigger than everybody they grew up around, and then they survived on size until they got to the NFL, where it's like, okay, size, right. Size isn't enough, and now you got this defensive end whose footwork and handwork is crushing you. And same thing to what we said back then, like with the boxing. If you're just starting to learn this and you're going up against a pro, if you're just starting to get your footwork right,
good luck.
good. You're going to wash out. I mean, I'm baffled by the guys that wash out of the NFL for technical reasons.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
It's like you've got all the size, you've got all the strength, you've got all the... But you couldn't get your footwork right?
Hire somebody, figure it out.
Yeah, they should have been getting your footwork right in the 8th grade.
Yep.
You know? But they don't anymore. I see these kids now that, you know, they get to be a junior in college and they still can't tackle properly.
Yeah.
Like, who let you get this far without teaching you how to tackle properly?
We have kids that get into high school can't read, you know?
It's nuts. Yeah. It's nuts to me. But we shuffle them through. Yep. You know? Like, here you go. You know, back to my daughter with the softball. I told her, listen, your velocity's going to come. It's going to come.
Yeah.
Make sure your footwork's right. Make sure your hips are you know.
Technique.
Let's get the... I said I was an offensive lineman. Undersized, always.
Yeah.
But my technique kept me in the game all game long. You know, I had to butt heads with Orlando Pace. That guy was 100 pounds heavier than me.
Yeah.
Easily. But he never slaughtered me because my technique was proper. And I'd let the quarterback know, like, listen, science says I'm only going to be able to hold this guy off.
Right. Get something done, motherfucker.
So I'm going to do what? I'm going to use all the angles and the leverage and every technique I can use.
Buy you a few seconds.
Right. But at some point in time, he's just going to grab me. He's going to throw me somewhere.
He's a freaking monster.
And I just need you to know that. And I just, you know, look at the NBA now. Why can't these guys shoot free throws? It's a free throw. It's the easiest shot you're ever going to shoot.
No fundamentals.
You've got guys shooting 70%. Mike, I was a big Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fan. Love Kareem. And that guy shot like 80% from the free throw line. You know, you got centers now, you know, and it started with Shaq.
Right.
Where we were like, oh, well, we're okay with him being a crappy free throw shooter. No, man, that's the easiest part of your game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You sit there and you practice free throws.
Right. You know, but because he's blocking shots and dunking on people, well, we'll forgive that. No, you shouldn't. Like,
learn the fundamentals.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, you're supposed to be at your brewery right now.
Man, the beer's not going anywhere. You know?
I'm going to try to collect my wife and see. She sent me a text that she's out shopping, but if I can collect her, we'd like to come over. But hey, let's plug everything before we get out of here. So Bascule Brewery in Lorain, Ohio. Do you guys have like a website for it?
Yes, BasculeBrewPub.com is the website for the brewery. On the website there, you can sign up for a newsletter. Every Tuesday, we send out a newsletter, lets you know what's on tap, what food trucks are coming.
Nice.
Any special events that we're having. So that's BasculeBrewPub.com for the brewery. But yeah, 1397 Colorado Avenue in Lorain. Just drive until you look thirsty.
You went too far.
Right.
And Midwest Best Grooming.
Yeah, it's MWBGroomingCo.com is Midwest Best Grooming. We've got beard balms, beard oils, lip balms, skin balms, all natural, handcrafted. Just trying to get the guys looking proper out there. You can follow us. I've been using
it. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, we're on. Both are pretty active on social media. Midwest Best Grooming on Instagram is. Tim does a good job of keeping us active on there, and then Bascule Brewery on Instagram. So, awesome. And then anybody wants to follow me on Instagram, it's Incogfredo. I'm either posting beer, food, or nonsense.
Yeah, and I'll post all those links in whatever Instagram post we do for this, and you guys can check them out. So thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Sir,
it's been
appreciate
great.
it.
This has been the longest podcast we've ever done. I love it. All right. This has been the Refined Savage. See ya.